Ladies and gentlemen, you know that guy in your neighborhood who spent 5 years building a tiny sports car in his shed using only a set of wrenches, espresso, and blind optimism? In 1953, Italy had a whole industry of those guys. And they weren't building dreams, they were building nightmares for Porsche drivers. One of the most glorious little troublemakers of them all? The Moretti 750 Gran Sport Berlinetta. Imagine a Ferrari that was left in the dryer too long. But don't laugh, because this baby Ferrari could eat your fancy roadster alive on a mountain pass and still look cuter doing it. Before we dive into the twin-cam glory, do us a favor and slam that subscribe button like you're downshifting into a hairpin at the Mille Miglia. Your support keeps this channel running and prevents me from having to sell bootleg Moretti carburetor keychains on the street corner. Let's rewind to the sun-drenched streets of Turin in 1953, where a small company with big dreams, Fabbrica Automobili Moretti, introduced a car that would become a cult classic among the Etceterini. For those not fluent in Italian garage slang, Etceterini refers to the multitude of tiny post-war sports car builders, Stanguellini, Ciata, Oscar, who built featherweight racers for hill climbs, rallies, and daydreaming dentists with a competitive streak. Giovanni Moretti, already known for his two-wheeled racing engines, saw the booming amateur racing market and thought, why not give Ferrari some nightmares? The result was the Moretti 750 Gran Sport Berlinetta, a fastback coupe styled by none other than Giovanni Michelotti, the man whose pen practically sculpted half of Italy's automotive beauty. Moretti didn't just slap on a pretty body over Fiat bits and call it a day. No, this thing had a bespoke square-tube chassis, a jewel-like twin-cam engine, and proportions so perfect it made grown men weep into their espresso. Michelotti's design looked like a 7/10 scale Ferrari 212 Inter, but with the spirit of a Jack Russell Terrier, small, eager, and prone to outpacing larger foes in tight corners. The Berlinetta had a semi-fastback silhouette with flowing fenders, a low-slung beltline, and a rear window that wrapped around like it was giving the luggage shelf a warm hug. Only about 24 were ever made, and today you'd be lucky to find more than 8 still surviving. The car was born into a golden era for small Italian GTs. Post-war Italy was revving out of economic ruin and into a motorsport frenzy. The 750 cubic centimeter class was hotly contested, and Moretti aimed to dominate it with a halo model that whispered, "Race me." Even when parked, unfortunately, whispering doesn't pay the bills. Moretti faced stiff competition from Fiat's mass-produced and cheaper alternatives, so each Berlinetta was hand-built, artisanal, and priced like it came with a free vineyard. At $4,200 in 1953, about $50,000 in today's currency, it was a luxury racer for the discerning enthusiast. Now, under that curvaceous little hood sat the true gem, a 748 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, completely developed in-house by Moretti. None of that borrowed from Fiat business. This was a twin-cam, twin-win-Weber, cast-iron masterpiece that revved to 7,000 revolutions per minute and belted out somewhere between 65 and 71 horsepower. I know, that doesn't sound like much until you realize the car weighed about as much as 3 folding chairs and a cappuccino, just under 990 pounds, or 450 kilograms. The power was routed to the rear wheels through a 4-speed manual gearbox. The chassis was a custom square-tube affair, not a recycled Fiat floor pan, and the suspension was as Italian as it gets. Semi-independent up front with quarter-elliptic leaf springs and a tubular transverse link. In the back, a live axle floated on its own set of quarter-elliptics. The brakes were Lockheed drums all around, finned and alloy, because even stopping had to look cool. Rolling on 15-inch wheels wrapped in 145 series tires, the Berlinetta's stance was aggressive, yet elegant, with a wheelbase of just 78 inches. 1,980 millimeters, a length of around 12 feet, 3.7 meters, and a width of 4.6 feet, 1.4 meters. It was about the size of a hot lunch, but could hit a top speed of 95 to 100 miles per hour. That's 155 to 160 kilometers per hour. What truly made the Berlinetta special was how it rejected compromise. Moretti didn't just want a fast car, he wanted a proper one. The suspension setup, while unconventional, kept unsprung weight low and handling sharp. The aluminium body was so tightly hand-formed it looked shrink-wrapped. Even the roof was unique, a one-piece hardtop with no removable sections, just honest-to-goodness craftsmanship. Some competition versions had lightweight bucket seats and racing harnesses. The Berlinetta wasn't just built to look good. It raced. It won. It conquered. Moretti's 750s competed in everything from the Mille Miglia to the SCCA hill climbs of California. One even tackled the insane Algiers-Cape Town rally, 16,000 kilometers of African terrain, and came out not just alive, but victorious in class. From a design philosophy perspective, the Berlinetta embodied the post-war optimism and ambition that swept through Italy in the early 1950s. Every curve suggested speed, every panel seemed to promise precision. Michelotti's lines were taut, purposeful, and devoid of excess. Even the tiny greenhouse behind the seats wasn't just there for show, it offered extra luggage space, making the car a GT in miniature. It was for the gentleman racer who still needed to pack a weekend bag and maybe a bottle of Chianti. Sure, Timmy once stuffed his with trout and forgot them for a week, but that's not Michelotti's fault. On the road or the track, the Berlinetta had few equals in its class. While many contemporaries in the 750 cubic centimeter field relied on Fiat underpinnings or borrowed power plants, Moretti built its own engine, its own chassis, its own destiny. The car's front engine, rear-wheel drive layout gave it predictable handling, while the featherweight construction made it a joy in the corners. Let's not forget that the car did more than just pose. At the 1953 Mille Miglia, a Moretti 750 claimed the class win, averaging a very respectable 111 kilometers per hour across Italy's public roads turned raceway. It ran in the 24 hours of Le Mans, albeit with less success. And in California, SCCA privateers hustled Berlinettas up mountains and around cones with great effect. This was a car that punched above its weight class, even if its owner probably wore leather gloves while doing it. Fewer than 10 are known to survive, and each one tells a story. One lived in Carl Ludwigsson's garage. Another was discovered behind a sealed wall in a villa near Lake Como, literally bricked in and forgotten like a cheesy Italian version of Sleeping Beauty. In its day, the Berlinetta sold for a hefty $4,200, about $50,000 in today's money. That was big league coin for a small displacement car, especially one built by a low-volume outfit. Fast forward to the 21st century, and prices have continued to climb like a turbocharged goat. Chassis 1290S sold for $132,000 at RM Monterey in 2016. Another brought €151,200 in 2010, and one even fetched $174,720, fees included, at the Villa d'Este auction in 2013. And to our beloved sponsors, the channel members who keep this tiny engine humming, you're the real dual Webbers in this twin-cam journey. Without you, we'd be more lost than Timmy at an EV charging station. So here's to you, dear viewer. May your tires stay sticky, your neighbors stay silent, and your garages stay just big enough for dreams. And if you ever find a tiny Italian fastback peeking out from behind a barn wall, don't hesitate. Open the door, start the story.